I remember you telling me a story about a funeral service that you were either forced to attend or something that, do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily forced to attend it as much as I was forced to run it.
Okay.
So the backstory on it, there was a squad from an MP unit in Alaska, and they were on a road. And literally, I was just there a week prior. So I heard about an IED hitting the EFP version. The EFP is something we want to uninvent, electronically formed projectile, and wiped out the insides of one of the trucks. It hit all of us. It was one of our downtrace units for the battalion I was attached to. And I found out later that the squad leader was an E6. He was one of the ones that was killed, and he was like the heart and soul of that platoon. And so I was told by my E7, he's, hey, I need you to go coordinate, manage, and run this memorial service, basically. And I was like, I have an admin MOS from many years back. I was an MP. I do IT in the civilian side. Nowhere in there is funeral directors. Fine.
Right.
Yeah, it was hard. I did it. I did what I was told to do. I grabbed my guys that were working for me at the time, put them to work with it. Props to them. They didn't want to do it either, but they backed me up. It's devastating.
Yeah. One specific detail I remember about that was how many caskets there were versus how many people were killed. Do you want to go into that at all?
Yeah, I'll touch on it briefly. The device used again was an EFP. I say device. I mean, it's a combination of devices that make one of those up. But there were three individuals killed, and it was four caskets. I guess in a weird sort of way, do the math, right? That's just how devastating that device, that invention, or whatever you want to call it, is. The back doors on the MRAPs we're using, the large armored trucks, the back doors, like 900 pounds of pop. And it blew those things 100 yards away, 300 feet, give or take.
Wow.
That is some serious power. Now, listen, if you're the truck behind them, that you're obviously devastated. But then when you see a pair of doors come flying past you, because they were most certainly going to be closer than 100 yards away, you got to know something is not good there. And just the whole thing, seeing grown men just break down and completely lose it. What I saw that day was hard, and it'll stick with me for a long time. I've been to a lot of funerals, unfortunately. Been to another buddy of mine who was killed's funeral. A couple of them. I still can't get the memories of that one out of my head because it was almost like I sat there and thought I can see that, knowing where I was a week prior. You can look at them caskets and just your mind's gonna run. I'll stop there. But
I remember that situation changing a lot for you. It was a much different war in 2009 than it was in 2003, and that was because of your mission.
100%. We were mission 2003 and into 2004 was we were surveillance counter intel. We were watching people we were there as the invasion was going on. We got there shortly after it started, but we were like goalies. We were trying to make sure that the bad people that are trying to escape Iraq stayed in Iraq, and we were trying to track them down, make sure they weren't. The other element with that was we knew there were foreign intelligence services watching our troops and stuff. We were looking out for them as well, trying to find them. Doing a lot of stuff that was totally outside the realm of my job. I just came out of MP school. Hey, what do? I arrest people. I do combat patrols. Nowhere in there says, hey, you're going to learn how to take pictures of people while they're not looking. And knowing they're probably taking pictures of you. You know what you're told to do. So it's learn on the fly kind of stuff. Did we have gunshots ring out and stuff like that there? Yes, we did. We actually got shot at there a few times. Some of it was more of an indirect, like gunfire coming at us kind of thing. But I can't remember what time I had gunshots ringing out of me in Iraq as much as dealing with the IEDs. And that should tell people like the IEDs were much, much more of a threat than small arms fire, so to speak. I say that knowing full well.
I was at the crib. The rest of my unit was in Mosul. I guess it depends on what part of this country you're from. That's how you pronounce Mosul or Mosul for us rednecks.
Anyway, there was a sister company that was already there in Mosul, and my company was going to replace them. And it wasn't even 2 weeks after they got there. The sister element they went in for a meeting with the Iraqi police because that was our tasking, was training the Iraqi police. So they went to the Iraqi police station, downgraded some of their gear, basically which means they took off some of the gear that they were rolling with, to have a meeting with some of the leadership in that station. Someone who got paid off by Al Qaeda pops an AK-47 in the room and just starts spraying the room down.
Killed a lieutenant, the platoon leader for that group. One of our interpreters, I believe, and maybe I think it was a couple of Iraqi policemen that got killed also. And that one kind of shook up a lot of our guys quickly because it's okay. Hey, don't downgrade our gear. Let's not do that because apparently you just don't know. It's not that group's fault for doing that. It's just you want to establish trust with these people you're working with, the training. I mean, you go meet with some of these Iraqi police stations fairly regularly, so you want to have that trust with them. Hey, if I'm going to train you, I need to be able to trust you. The Iraqi police and the Iraqi army and the Iraqi border teams, it's got to be the worst way to have to train someone ever. There was no better way to do it that I can think of off the top of my head maybe, but these guys had to train on the fly.
If I'm training in combat, I'm training back here in the United States. I'm training at the National Training Center. I'm training in elements that aren't dangerous. They're not real 7.62 rounds flying at my head.
Right.
These guys go out there for their training day. Hey, you're here for day one of training. All right, so you're going to walk outside your Iraqi police station here and you're going to go patrol that area right there. And those are real bad guys out there, by the way. Oops. So that's just how they had to work that. And so we had to factor that into our plan as well. And it was, not to get over political, but there was all the differences between a plan in 2008 when we were training to do our workout. 2009, do the political math there, when we actually got there, about halfway through that deployment, maybe not even that long, things changed. But it was a very different deployment in regard. We had the lieutenant that was killed, had the Alaskan lieutenant that had got hit. There was a few of them. It was ramp ceremonies. Ramp ceremonies are one of those things that, man, you wish you could never have to go to. And I don't know, did you have to go there? I don't know. But listen, what a ramp ceremony is when they say, all these people are died, we need to clean them up, get on a casket, drape it with a U.S. flag, which is why I will always stand for that flag, because I've seen too many coffins with that flag covering it. It hurts. But you give troops to go stay on either side of the ramp as they're loading that casket onto a C-130 or C-17 or whatever to take them back home, to fly those soldiers home for the last time. And when you see one, you never want to see it again. And unfortunately, when you do see it again, it's like, it changes things.
Yeah.
The closest thing I went to that in the first tour, I didn't go to any ramp ceremonies in the first tour.
Before we even deployed, we went to a memorial for 16 soldiers from the 3rd Infantry Division who were there. We actually flew out like a week or two after the invasion started. They already had 16 dead members of the 3rd ID coming back before we even got out. Me and about 15 to 20 of our guys went. This is 2003. We went to a memorial for 16 of their fallen soldiers, their families there and everything. That's the tip of the spear type stuff. They went there, they're first in, they got hit, they cleaned house, and they sent their fallen home. After that, got home and lost a guy there as he was coming home. That was the only thing I had to deal with in the first tour. Some before I left and one after I got home. It was just night and day different.
Yeah. Let's go forward a little bit. When did you get out of the Army? What made you make that decision to get out? You were honorably discharged?
I was. I was a relatively good boy. Relatively. Because I was at one point part of the E4 Mafia. That is a real thing. All that means is you're an E4 and your goals are to have as much fun as possible without getting in trouble.
Yes, sir.
He can't move because he's paused.
You can't unpause him either because I paused him. And I can't unpause him as I got told I could.
Get him the fuck out of my
So you're
office.
gonna have to drag him. Oh, these are still warm. Oh, no, they're not.
Here's a microwave right there.
Does
I would
it
say
work?
take him by his leg.
You might need a battle buddy.
Yeah, you should find a bell blade for that guy.
Yep. Go ahead, take him off. Hey, Banks, pause. There's no rank in the game.
What a dedicated to the role.
E4 Mafia.
even with that, I did the very best I could because I'm sure I mentioned already, I got out, I got back in, but I got back in because I wanted to be a part of something bigger than me. But there came that time after that second, even before the second deployment ended, where a few things started to happen. I was like, I don't really want to leave my family over and over again. And I didn't see a lot of drawdown anytime, so I said, okay, 14 years coming up. If I do 6 more, that's probably 2 more deployments. And there were some political elements in there. I wasn't happy about how things were going there. But it's also dealing with some things physically too. My last PT test, I did it with 2 bad knees, a bad hamstring, and a bad back.
I passed. And then I went and did the Army 6-miler on top of that.
And then I said, but do I want to keep doing that? Because here's what ends up happening. Yeah, you pass, but at some point, what if your body's no, you're not doing this anymore. You're not doing 2 miles. And I was sitting there thinking, what happens if that's not possible at some point? At this point, it was excruciatingly painful, but I'm still doing it. What happens if the mind goes, we're not doing this? Because the mind was telling the body at that point, keep going.
And what if that happens in the middle of a mission?
Yeah.
And again, the mind's going to tell you keep going, but to what point are you now more of a harm to your element than you are good? Mm-hmm. And I was not going to do that. I refused to put my guys in a bad situation because of me. And so there's a lot of factors in making that decision. It ended up being, in my opinion, the right decision.
I miss my guys. I miss serving with them. I miss serving this country. But I don't miss leaving my family. I don't miss the pressure of going, God, if I don't suck it up with, I end up with torn meniscus in both knees, and I've dealt with a lot of stuff since then trying to fix all that, but I don't miss trying to deal with that at a level that's high enough to pass PT tests. Or like you said, God forbid you're on mission, you still got to suck it up. Because that's how we're taught. Suck it up.
I got to go to sick call.
To get throat lozenges and ibuprofen.
That was the best. Like from the time I was in basic training all the way up to whenever, as I was almost about to rejoin my unit in Iraq, I had to go because they thought I shattered my elbow. And kid you not, they said, okay, here's some ibuprofen, put some ice on it, get some throat lozenges. And I'm going, why? Why throat lozenges? Yeah, but I'm not trying to demean anybody with that, but there's a point where we're taught, hey, suck it up, sick call is not for you right now, especially as a leader. Yeah, that's what led me to say, okay, deuces. 2010, I was starting to not be as active of a participant in the United States Army Reserve. 2011 was my ETS.
So let's table the military for just a moment. You mentioned that outside the military, you did cybersecurity.
I said,
I think so. And so what can you tell us about the cyber world? What concerns are there? What's on your radar?
I spent 25 years in IT in general, and the last 17 of those years have been doing a lot of security work. Something's called cybersecurity, whatever the case may be. The things that really keep us awake at night, things like exploiting the power grid, that keeps us awake.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. If you took out the power grid in this country and eliminated electronic device capabilities you're probably at 90% plus people who aren't on like home generators, things like that. And even some solar would be affected by certain things happening. But if you take that out for 90% of the country, there's going to be chaos and there's no way around it. We're like, oh, we don't be silver. Yeah, okay. A big one.
I think a lot of people talk about the collapse of the economy. When you have foreign entities out there like China who are working actively to exploit our weaknesses as people to help bring down our economy, we're helping them in a lot of cases. We're using apps like TikTok and Temu. These are, however you feel about TikTok, I know people make a living off of it. I get it. But what China's done is exploited this country's need and our utter desire to watch ridiculous things on the internet, videos of people hurting themselves and kids saying things they probably shouldn't say in public, and whatever the case may be, right? Okay, I don't know that's not all of it, but let's be honest, a lot of us are watching stuff on TikTok that is just ridiculous. It's funny, but it's so ridiculous. And China went, Yep, we can get them hooked on that. The other thing we get hooked on, cheap stuff. And maybe some of it's actually decent of quality, but being made over there, they can do it and sell it to us for a very low price.
I think Timu, that app is downloaded by millions of Americans, and I think it's appealing because we find that right now our dollar, the US dollar, isn't going very far. So when you see products that are, what's the word? Products that are in front of you that are affordable, it's very appealing to jump on that.
True. And products that are useful.
Yeah.
They probably got a million products on there that if I looked at right now, I'm like,
It's literally like an Amazon.
it's an Amazon with, I want a gas grill, but I don't want to pay $600 for a gas grill. Oh, here's one for $12.
You can get night vision goggles. Who doesn't need night vision goggles?
All right, what has two thumbs and needs night vision? So that one's sitting there for a bit.
But no, so Timu's definitely not a good.
Can you still get the stuff? Absolutely, but the app is dangerous.
And tell us why.
Okay, and I'm going to say something before I tell you exactly why. There's going to be people on here or watch this and go, Dallas, I don't have stuff on there that anybody could use. You don't know that. Okay, quick story. I worked for a company that got hacked by the FBI. I wasn't part of their cybersecurity team when I got hacked. I was doing security in another element for them. FBI comes in, they call me in there and say, hey, you do security too. What do you think? And I told them what I think. And then I had to tell the executives of this company what I think, because the executives said, Dallas, what stuff should we protect? I said, all of it, because it's not up to you to figure out what the Chinese want. Because what the Chinese are trying to do is put together a puzzle. So when you said they go, Dallas, we don't have anything on there that we want, but you pay your electric on there. Well, there's information about that electric company in that bill. You pay your water bill. Hey, knock out the electric grid. Yeah, that's bad. Start jacking up the water systems in this country, and you're gonna have people dying quick. Just put it up. There's a lot of things that you might have on there that you think are innocent and harmless, but China's going piece of the puzzle. Another piece of the puzzle. Oh, this guy pays all these people for different subcontractor services through Cash App. Another piece of the puzzle. Timu is really good at taking all of that, harvesting it, and send it back to what we call a C2 server or bank of C2 servers, which are command and control. That's what C2 means.
We found TikTok to be taking the information that you copy to your clipboard years ago. If you go, oh, I need to copy this password so I can use it over here. Boom, copy that password to clipboard. TikTok, hey, thank you.
The Chinese are able to use these apps to hack.
Oh, absolutely. It's probably fair to say they're the biggest hacking group out there. There's other, Anonymous was one of the original. There's a couple other ones out there, like the OGs of the hacking world. But some of those groups are like very international. A lot of people located here in the US, some located in other countries, blah, blah, blah. China's China. In China, a few years ago, I heard an estimate of 50,000 plus people in their military. All they do is hack. There was a Pennsylvania state attorney who he brought charges against 5 Chinese nationals, 5 Chinese members of the military that they could trace back to hacking. Some interesting points about this. 4 of the 5, when they said, hey, we're bringing charges against these people. First off, state attorney said, look, I know I'm not going to be able to get these guys extradited back here to face charges. I get it. I'm just trying to bring awareness to the rest of this country that there's a problem here. And if they don't know it, I'm trying to help you understand it. 4 of the 5 they had profile pictures of in their Chinese military uniform.
Now, the other aspect of that, which is funny, remember that cartoon where the sheepdog and the coyote would go and they clock in?
Yeah.
And then the sheepdog would proceed to beat the snot out of the coyote for about 8 hours and they clock out, right? These guys, if you looked at the activity lines, so we had activity lines of their hacking activity, and it would start at 8 in the morning Chinese time. About noon, boop. About 1:30, they take a long lunch. It starts going up again. 5 or 6 o'clock, boop.
So you would say that the Chinese hackers are pretty intelligent?
They're immensely talented, but they start growing up with that. Like age 4. Here's Linux, son. Do you know what Linux is? No, I'm going to show you. A lot of different flavors of Linux or what they use to hack people, but they started at such an early age. They're grooming them from the word go. You're going to be a hacker for the Chinese military.
Aren't there like just as many intelligent US hackers that are like able to stop it?
Able to? Yes. Only two are being put to that test.
We're beefing it up and we're changing the program a little bit. I think 3 of the branches of the military have divisions dedicated to that. I just don't think we're there. It's one thing to go, oh, I've had my kid in front of a computer since he was 3 years old. Super. Where you teach them how to, I don't know, reverse engineer code. No, of course not. I don't know how to do. Okay, but that's what they were doing. Just, do we have people who are just naturally talented, gifted individuals when it comes to stuff? Yes. Are they doing the defense work that we need to defend, much less go on offense? Not in really that scope, not in those numbers. There are some private groups out there that are taking that mantle. Hey, we're going to go out there and we're going to start hammering against the Russians. Or for those of you who don't know,
If you hear about a ransomware attack, possibly the Russians. Okay, I'm not saying it's the Russians, or it's probably the Russians. That's their, and I'm not saying it's state sponsor like China is, but there's a lot of Russian groups. That's what they do, and hey, ransomware's the devil, man. That is the worst.
What are some tips that you could give us to help us be more secure in the cyber world?
first off, if you're like me, even in the Mac world, I use a Mac for work. And there's some new updates that you got to do. Okay, I'll do it. Do your updates, because even if you don't look at what those updates do, and a lot of times I do, or even some of the apps that you use, I deal with a lot of apps that are natively built for doing security work. That's my job. A lot of these apps, though, when they put out, hey, here's an update, here's an update, here's an update. One of the apps I'm doing work for now, they just put out an update, and we're pretty sure it's to prevent an exploit to hack into their SQL database. The unfortunate part is that the SQL database has a lot of highly sensitive passwords in it usually. Even if you don't know what the patch or the update does, do your updates regularly. Sometimes they just do monotonous things, like whatever, I don't care. I got some new emojis, super. But maybe that patch is to prevent an exploit for your system, for Office, for something. So do the updates. Another one for your phones. Guys, man, start doing your homework on what you need on there.
I'm as guilty as anybody of having apps on there that I just don't need. Now, here's where I go into a little. Yeah, somebody's gonna say, I'm looking for your comments in the comment section on this, but I use an iPhone. I was forced to use an iPhone when I first started my company back in the day. I don't think I told you, but they actually allow certain Androids on there now. I'm still not going back because I like my iPhone. Now, iPhones are a bit more secure with their apps because they vet their apps way more stringently when it comes to security than the Play Store with Google. And Google's gotten better with that. They're working on improving it. But man, for years, man, Google's the Wild West of apps. I could put out an app there, and there I got my app. Did I check it for security? I sure didn't. Oopsie. But maybe do a little bit of vetting on that. There's some apps out there, if you see, okay, there's only like a handful of people use this app, maybe there's a reason. If there's 60,000 people using it, maybe go, okay, maybe it's a little more secure. Now that I know I'm going to hear it now. Well, TikTok's got 800 million people on it. I get that. Remember, goofy people doing goofy stuff on videos. Timu, cheap stuff. Yeah, just use your noggins about some of these. Maybe just go and do some Google research. Not everything on Google's great information. So I'm looking around and saying, hey, there's a new app that I want. Just pop it into a Google search and see what comes up. You don't know. If the first 80 things that pop up are like, this app is evil, maybe take their word for it on that one. But so vet your apps. Most definitely.
Here's another thing though. Don't just assume that because you're not using your credit card somewhere that you're safe. I know people who they feel like, hey, cash is king, you can't hack me. Let me tell you something. You got a credit card or a debit card, guarantee it, right? Okay, and I bet you I can go out with something called a paste bin. And paste bins have been around for a decade plus, way more than that, really. But what a paste bin is where hackers have gone and gathered all the data they can hack from something, maybe went into insert credit card company here, right? Hacked it, pulled down 8 million records, and they put it all in the paste bin so the rest of the world could get it too. I say the rest of the world, but usually it's the people who want to do bad things. It's those people who even know about where these paste bins are.
Raise your hand if you've heard this buzzword. I hate buzzwords. Buzzwords are like, hey, 22 a day. That's a buzzword now. It's nothing but a cliche. Or the dark web. Yeah, a lot of us in my world, we monitor the dark web. Do you really though? Let me tell you something. If you got an app that you say is monitoring the dark web knows about you already. They know about that app. But it gets back to my original point. Yeah, if you think you're protecting yourself because you didn't use your credit card at the gas pump, it's already out there. On that note, just relax. Okay, just don't let yourself stress over stuff like that because if they're going to swipe all the money from your bank, they're probably already going. The point is, that's not usually their goal. Their goal is not to let's go clean everybody's bank accounts out.
Now, if the time comes they want to do that, there's a lot of us who are going to wake up one day to empty bank accounts. It's not going to be onesie twosie things. That's for what we call the script kiddies, the people who are newbies in the hacking world. The people who are really good at this and they actually pop all these huge companies. One day, you might, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. One day we might wake up and there'll be 100 million people going, man, you got no money. No electronics, bad water, bad. 100 million people with no money, also very bad.
VPN something that you recommend?
I do recommend it. Gosh, we use it a lot in the corporate side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great suggestion, especially if you go to a coffee shop or something. Go ahead and connect with a VPN because or coffee shop or like hotel Wi-Fi, these are notoriously lenient in their security for their connections. What happens is you're basically creating a connection from your machine to the internet using an encrypted tunnel. If it's not an encrypted tunnel, if it's just an unsecure connection, anybody can jump on there and watch what you're doing, whatever they're trying to do to exploit it. VPN, it blocks out a little bit. I'm trying to stay high level on this, but if you can do what we call point-to-point VPNs,
that's gold. The purpose of a point-to-point is, let's say you and a buddy connect to each other for something. The cool thing is you're going to be able to create a solid encrypted tunnel from that person to that person. And that connection is completely encrypted. It's amazing. Now, connecting up to the internet, okay, once it gets to that point in the server of the internet, yeah, then it becomes, again, open season, but at least your connection from the coffee shop is secure.
ExpressVPN is what we use. We don't get paid by them. I just think it's
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. But I'll say this. Do you feel like you had the knowledge to go, oh, okay, I know how to use this?
Oh, yeah. It's really easy.
Very simple. And what we like to see is the everyday public finding tools like this that help them be more secure. And they don't need people like me to. I deal with companies who are spending 6 and 7 figures on their software, and I help them with their stuff. If I'm dealing with someone who spent $100 for 3-year subscriptions on things, now I've got a whole lot more things that I'll forever be busy. We don't necessarily want to be 24-hour tech support for the world. So tools like that I think are so cool because, again, yeah, it was a little bit of tweaking it when we bought it and configured it, but it's nothing that the average tech savvy person couldn't figure out. And I think from there on, even non-tech savvy people could figure out, click, boom, all right, I'm here. That's kind of stuff we like to see. There's actually some firewalls out there that you can use for your home networks that I think are outstanding. A lot of them are by the big names, like your Cisco Meraki type stuff, and Palo's got a software-based firewall. It gets a little expensive, but like, how important is the stuff you're protecting, right? Can I go, okay, does the cost justify what I'm trying to protect? But it goes back to what I said earlier, protect it all.
Does a VPN protect against botnets? Or can you explain what a botnet is?
The initial question, I'll say yes and no. It depends on how good the other person is. There's always that thought of, if they want in,
They'll find a way.
they'll figure it out. And I'll explain that here in a second. But a botnet, what is, let's say you create a password that's 24 characters. That is a big password. And then not only is it 24 characters, it's 2 uppercase letters, 2 lowercase letters, 2 numbers, 2 special characters, 2 notes from your mom, 2 capital cities mixed in. The purpose, the botnets have a lot of different purposes. Let me just give one example though, and I start with the password thing, because password cracking, popping someone's password, whatever terminology you want to use, the longer and more complex the password, the more horsepower it takes from your machines, from the computers, laptops, etc.
How about a password like password 1?
Not so much. Not so much.
That ain't strong?
No, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is like.
How about strong password 123?
Only if the S is a $sign, the A in password is an @ sign. Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
The fact is, we used to have those, and we would put the special characters in there and went, okay, now it's a strong password, right? And the thing is, we would see vendors who would come in and install their stuff in government networks, and they would leave the default password 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And our group, my company it's not just the best company I've ever worked for, the people involved and everything else, but it's the most talented people I've ever worked with on the security side. They want to know, do what we call penetration testing. Hey, look, so we found out you've left your database a little bit unsecure, probably this instance, but also, listen, some of your vendors set up some cameras, and the way to get access to those cameras and see some sensitive things on those cameras is password 1, 2, 3. And you're like, holy crap, because now government's going to get sued because someone's exporting cameras, putting footage out there or something like that. Yeah, a good strong password, because here's the thing, for one machine to crack a password of 14 characters with some good mix in it could be days and days.
Days, weeks, maybe. It just depends on how strong the one machine is.
However, if you're able to loop in the resources from about, 5,000 machines that you've taken over, you basically, behind the scenes, without the user actually knowing, taking over that machine and start harvesting that machine's resources. Now you have that much horsepower cracking this password, and what would have taken 3 weeks now, maybe it takes 45 minutes. And I'm throwing out some totally general numbers. Don't quote me on that. Hey, Dallas said, no. But that's the premise of it, and that's why they do it. And a lot of times people don't realize that your home machines you're working on is not part of a botnet. It's happened before. People are like, hey, the FBI say, hey, you're part of a botnet. Do tell. Okay. Did you remember sending this email? I did not. They do that too. Sometimes users just send out spam emails, 1,000 spam emails to one person. Super duper. That's the purpose. I would say there's a couple of use cases, as we call it, for botnets. There's others. They've gotten a lot more creative with them over the years. But some of these things we've talked about can help you to at least not be an easy victim from a botnet. Sure, if you got 50,000 plus Chinese trying to hack your corporate network, it's a matter of time. The Air Force OSI, that's their criminal investigation unit, they've been investigating the Chinese since mid-90s.
That's going back a ways. So people are like, how long has this been going? Man, a long time. They got so tired of calling these hacking attempts, hey, the Chinese tried to hack us. The Chinese is hacking. The Chinese are... They got so tired of it, they came up with this
other acronym, APT. Now, it doesn't really, you can't always say apt because no one knows what that means. It's always just APT. But that stands for Advanced Persistent Threat. The key word there to me is always the word persistent, which generally means this. If they didn't get into your network today, they're going to. But most likely, going back to that Pennsylvania State Attorney I mentioned earlier, he basically had a saying when he did the press conference, so there's two types of companies out there. There's those that know that the Chinese are sitting on their network listening, and those that don't know that the Chinese are already on their network sitting there listening.
Whether he's right about that, he's basically saying 100% they are everywhere. Whether they really own 100% of the networks, I don't know, but I bet you they're on more than what anyone will ever know or admit. There's a lot of companies that have found this and they won't admit it. Do I blame them? Not really. Do I want to tell the world that the Chinese are on my network? I wouldn't. No, of course not. I went to a conference one time. Was basically, I won't say what the name of the group is, but it's a lot of the different companies that are contractors for the military, for the Department of Defense, and they moved it. I only went one time, and they said, well, we moved it from last year's location because what we thought was a secure location, we were using an IP-based thermostat, and it got hacked, and they changed one of the components of it. They turned it into a microphone.
So they listened to the entire conference about the Department of Defense.
Wow.
And I went, yep, okay. Now, according to them, no harm, no foul, no loss, no issue. And if anybody should have to explain to the government, yes, we got hacked, it's them.
I know you could sit here and talk about the cyber world for quite some time, but outside of the corporate world, what things do you like to do? What do you got going on?
One thing I learned was I first time started getting into IT. I became a teacher in a private college when I was early in my IT career, and I loved it. I used to teach certifications for IT. I absolutely loved it. And it was just something that kind of came naturally to me, the teaching thing. And I don't believe in the whole find something you love to do and you never work a day in your life. No, you'll still work. Okay, because there's going to be some of the days that you don't want to go to work, but you have to, even if you love it, and you don't stop loving it. But I still enjoyed it though. I think it's more, hey, find something you love to do and you'll excel at it.
Okay.
And I've now parlayed that into I enjoy shooting. I like guns. I don't love guns. I like guns. The guns I own are purpose guns. I'm not a collector. But I've taken those two and parlayed them together into the ability to, and I've gotten certifications and qualifications to back up credentials to teach shooting. Everything from basics, firearm safety, all the way up to the self-defense element, because I believe there's too many people who get on Facebook and just talk down to people. Hey, you're not very good at shooting. Well, look, just because you go to Shooter's World or wherever, nothing, Shooter's a great place to shoot. Just because you go to a range, a local range, and you shoot at paper, doesn't mean you're really that good. Because what happens to your adrenaline when the paper shoots back? Everything changes at that point. Every single thing's going to change because once adrenaline kicks in, now you got to think, what do I do? And if you're not training at that level, just keep yourself to yourself and be nice to the other people who are trying to learn to shoot. Not everybody's Jeremy Kulik or whoever. A lot of us are getting from point A to point. It's like people going to the gym.
It doesn't make sense a guy who's ripped and shredded to go up to the guy who's obviously not ripped and shredded and go, the heck are you doing here? But he's trying to get like you. What do you think he's trying to do? You don't go to the gym because you're already where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to the range. You don't go to outdoor ranges and shoot defensively because you're already where you want to be. You go there because you're trying to improve. And if you're not trying to improve, you don't have a plan to try and get to where you can improve to get better from where you're at now to somewhere else, you're wasting your time. Completely wasting your time. And unfortunately, you're also wasting ammo, and that gets expensive. But that's what we do. Part of our website, we'll put the website in the comments, really lends to some of the classes that we teach. If you want to take a concealed carry class, we'll teach that too. But we, as much as we are absolutely advocates for learning the basics and learning the safety elements, we're also advocates for taking that, and as soon as you're done with it, let's move to the next level. Let's learn how to protect yourself, protect your family, protect those. I don't have to be in a place where my family's with me for me to go, you know what, there's someone shooting, it's time to end this.
I'm not recommending everybody go cowboy in there if that's not your training level. But if you've had enough training to eliminate the threat, then eliminate the threat. There was a mall shooting in Indiana. Guy walks into a food court, long barrel. He starts to shoot. Well, there's a 20-year-old dude in there, and he's too young. He's too young. You let dudes sign up for the army at 17, so don't tell me he's too young to carry at 20. He's in there eating with his girlfriend, who's about 19. He sees this and he says, absolutely not. And he stands up, draws, puts a well-placed shot at 15 yards, and eliminates the threat. Could that have gone a lot worse? Absolutely. I think 3 people were killed, and that's bad enough, but 3 people losing their life is bad. Could that have been a lot worse? Absolutely. It was a super busy day for a food court and a mall. But one person who said, I've got training, I can put well-placed shots where I need to put them, stood up and took care of business.
To me, that is the essential element of what DP2A is all about. He had one person there who was a loved one, who was his girlfriend. But you know what? He probably saved 100 lives, if not more. You don't know. So why try and find out? Let's just all be ready.
I think there's a lot of reasons why we don't see more shootings in places that don't have signs saying no weapons allowed. You think the bad guy cares about your sign? No signs ever stopped a bad guy from bringing a gun in there. So just keep that one in mind. When you say, hey, this is a safe place, there's no guns allowed. I guarantee you one person who doesn't care about it. For his purposes, he went blind as soon as he saw that sign, and he picked his vision back up when he got inside. I think it's the silliest thing ever.
Hey, we have people who have the ability to carry concealed, but we're not going to allow them to come in here. That's people you want being able to carry. Some of them are probably off-duty cops. You going to tell them they can't bring their weapons in there? Love the cops. Love the cops. They can't be it everywhere at once. But I think people should carry because there's no saying, hey, when seconds matter, police are only minutes away. They can't be everywhere. And it's too much to ask them and expect them to be that. Like, we should only expect the cops. Like, come on. We live in a rural area. If someone's breaking our house right now, how long do you think it'll take cops to get to us?
Quite some time.
or 10 to 15 minutes. Oh, no. I know in this community there's a couple of cops that live around here, but you got to get the call out. The call's got to go out to the cops. The cops have to actually make the response. That takes time.
So shooting is one of those things that you like to do, but what are you most passionate about? What really gets you stirred up?
First off, God, I would be the most egotistical dude on the planet to think I've gotten any of the great things that I've had happen in my life without. I can look right across this couch. I can look around my house. I can look at all the things that are great things in my life and go, without God, that is not part of my life.
I'm ultra passionate about this country.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people say God, family, country. Honestly, I could take family and country, put them almost dead center, right? Because here's the thing. If we don't protect this country and the freedoms about it, what's to stop a dictatorship coming in and saying, listen, we're going to take you from your family. We're going to make you work 200 miles away at a job. And don't think it can't happen. There's other countries where it's happened, where it still happens this day. So if we don't protect the freedoms in this country, your family is just someone you might get to see every now and then, maybe. So I'm passionate about the country. Again, I didn't sign up to be in the military for college money. Did I use it eventually? Eventually, yes. Okay, but man, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I wore a green uniform. I wore desert tan. I wore the army combat uniform. Every single time I had a flag on that shoulder, and it was important. It was the coolest thing ever for me to actually be able to look over there and see that sometimes. Man, like I used to think it was the coolest thing ever just for people in the Olympics to march and carry that flag. I thought it was awesome. And for us, if that's not important to you, maybe the military's not for you.
I remember as a kid when my first deployment, we were still at Fort Stewart, Georgia, getting ready to deploy. And on his Kevlar, his helmet, we had bands around our Kevlars that had little, we call them snake eyes, basically, little tabs on the back. So if it's dark, you can see your guy in front of you. But people would write stuff on it, like their blood type. Good idea. Okay. Maybe their name. You never know. Maybe that's helpful too. This one dude wrote www.votenowar.org. I'm just going to come out and say, first off, my NCOIC told him, take that off. And he said, I thought we have freedom of speech. He said, not in the military, you don't. You can't run around wearing things on your body, on your uniform. It's part of your uniform. You can't run around with stuff on your uniform that's denouncing what your leadership is doing. And whether you agree with it or not, as long as it's a legal order, you follow.
If it's not a legal order, don't follow it. Don't do it. If you know full well it's against the Uniform Code of Military Justice, don't follow it. But man, do I agree with everything that we've had to do? No, but I believe in the leadership directly appointed above me, and I believe in that serving this country is not a right; it's an honor. It's an honor. And say, sure, yeah, it is a right. It's an honor first.
Man, there's people who are forced to serve their country just coming out of high school. You get to. That's the way I think about it. Passionate about the country, but I'm passionate about my family. You guys, you and our offspring, our adult children, most important thing in this world. Here's the thing: I believe God put you in my life, and I'm also believe I'm charged with protecting you and providing and caring and everything else. And I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. Sometimes I might fall short of that, but you know what? Dudes out there, dads, husbands, we're human beings. Own up to mistakes, move on. Fix it, and move on. It is as much an honor to lead this family as it is to serve the country.
Your company, your podcast, it's called Defend and Protect 2A, and the 2A stands for the Second Amendment. Describe your views on the Second Amendment and maybe the Constitution as a whole.
Okay, so there's a reason the Constitution has set a record many years ago for being the longest running document to ever govern a country. The reason is every one of those amendments in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, was written on principles. Generally, when I hear someone say, the Constitution, it's an old document, times have changed. That tells me a couple things. First off, you've not read it, and you don't understand it. You don't understand what its purpose was. You have no idea why that Constitution was developed. You don't understand the timing of it.
We've got a video we're going to do for a reactions channel where a guy's talking about it was written during the time of slavery. And it was written during the time of when people used bayonets and muskets. All of the amendments, even the First Amendment, is written on principles. Therefore, you think that the founders had any idea what Twitter was back then?
But I guarantee if someone says, can't have Twitter, can't have X, can't have TikTok, can't have any of that stuff, none of it. Someone's going to cry First Amendment. And a lot of them are going to be the ones that are going to cry, oh, but the Second Amendment was done when they were shooting muskets and flintlocks. You can't have it both ways. It is a timeless document. All of those things were written in a way that they apply all the time. Now, let me say something about the Second Amendment.
The last 4 words of that amendment are critical. Shall not be infringed. Okay? In other words, it's saying, hey, these rights shall not be infringed. It's not saying, hey, the government gave you that. No, it's clearly saying you already have that right, and we as the government are not allowed to infringe on it. So when our president says the Second Amendment is not absolute, no, that's exactly what it is. It's absolute. It is 100% absolute. Every law is an infringement. I get it. Oh, yeah, those crazy people getting guns. Okay, how about we do a better job vetting some of this stuff? But here's the thing. We can do that without infringing on every single body's rights. We can do that. And when we say, hey, we need red flag laws so crazy people don't get guns, it doesn't matter because there's crazy people out there all the time, and we still don't have them listed as crazy people. Even though they go to the doctor and they're like, the doctor's saying that guy's crazy. But the government's not showing him as a crazy person. Okay, you're going to put in a red flag law that's going to give people, it's literally going to give me the right to call and say, hey, my neighbor is a little nuts. And he is. He's crazy. If you've seen him, he's nuts. Chris, love you, bro.
But then that's going to give the government the right without due process to go and confiscate his firearms. And if that's not an infringement, man, we need a new dictionary because that's the very definition of infringement. When I say I'm passionate about the country, I'm passionate about all of it, the whole package. The country itself, defending its borders, we suck at that. The Constitution, the current administration sucks at that. Everything that goes with it, being an American from 17 whatever when we first started, didn't start 1776, 17 whatever when we first started making this move to become an independent nation to now.
I'm all about it. But I also see things like the Supreme Court in the 50s throwing in things like separation of church and state. I bet you there's a lot of people who watch this who do not know that there's no such thing as separation of church and state in the Constitution. Yet they'll claim that's unconstitutional. Why? It's based on separation of church and state. How can something be unconstitutional based on something that's not in there? Now, if you look up the history of that, if you want a history lesson on that, maybe I'll do another show on it. But it's not in there. It was never meant to be in there. No matter how many cutesy quotes people throw out there, when you throw out your cutesy quotes about that, you're also telling me again you don't understand the time frame back then or what these people were thinking. These founders are brilliant people.
The Declaration of Independence, I don't think people realize the things that the people that signed that document, what they went through, like what they gave up, what they stood for, what they put on the line for signing that document.
Absolutely. And here's another thing. Okay, I'm going to do another plug for someone that's not paying me to do it, right? But Patriot Academy was put on by a guy named Rick Green. If you haven't looked up and watched stuff from Rick Green, he's referred to as America's Constitution coach. But man, you can't tell me there's anybody who knows more about the Constitution than that guy. Mm-hmm. But one thing he listed was like the 56 signers, they come from all walks of life. A bunch of old rich white men. Really, because one of the poorest dudes in his whole community was an actual delegate who was there to sign it, and he just happened to be in that famous portrait or painting of the signers starting to sign. There's a guy sitting there who is one of the poorest people in his community, but he was chosen as a delegate because he was a free thinker. He was smart. He was passionate about this. He fought. He also just happened to be sitting next to the richest, wealthiest person in that whole room. And funny thing about it, most people, I would say 99% of the people that would ever go to school and come out with a degree, never heard of either one of them. Most people never heard of a John Jay.
Or the majority of the people that were portrayed in that.
Benjamin Rush was one of the most influential people of that time period. People heard of Ben Franklin, but Benjamin Rush played such a pivotal role in helping us get our independence. John Jay, very wealthy person, he played a huge role in that. And most people never heard of these guys. Someone feel like Constitution's old. Okay, just save me the trouble of hearing what you're going to say because it's wasting my time. And that might sound harsh, but you know what? Sometimes maybe we need harsh. Maybe we need people to step on our toes. Some of the stuff that I've learned and the mindset I've developed now is because someone who I respected highly stepped on my toes and challenged me to actually do something about it.
Now, and you do something about it, sure wasn't challenging me to go throw hands. He challenged me to go look it up, see for yourself, but do it in a sense where you're looking up credible sources. Like you can look up Bureau of Labor Statistics, maybe some of the economic data back there from the CBA, I think it's called. There's several government sites out there that deal with economic data, educational data, labor data, things like that. And all of it, if you really correlate it to who's running Congress and who's running the presidency and who's this, it all points to one thing. We suck at putting in people consistently who understand how to build the economy, who understand how to put this country going forward, who understand how to help the country grow. And a lot of them will turn around and say things like, this person is violating the Constitution. Like, you can't tell me what's in it. Save me the trouble. I'm not listening to that anymore. I get people all the time like challenge my gun views. I don't have the staunchest gun views out there, but I guarantee you this: if someone says I should be owning a machine gun, you're right. Go get you that machine gun. I should be owning a cannon that fires cannonballs from 1847. You're right. If you can get it to run, go get you that cannon. Flamethrowers? Yes. We said a week ago, I think it was, you can't just own machine guns and flamethrowers. First off, thanks to the ATF, which is an unconstitutional entity all to itself, they make laws. What's the ATF doing making laws? There's nothing in the Constitution that says that a non-elected body is allowed to make laws. Wait a minute. Hold on. Anyway, I'll let that one sink in for everybody. But thanks to the ATF, you have to pay extra money grab to the government, but you can still own a machine gun. So sure you can. I can go buy a flamethrower right now. I don't need anybody's permission. I can literally just go to my buddy Mario out there and Mario, I need a flamethrower, and boom, here comes a flamethrower. He's going to be on an interview soon too.
We're editing out any names, so.
Mario's not going to be happy about this. Mario likes his name out there.
What's your views on the direction of the country, the way the country's headed, and what can be improved?
There's certain elements out there, certain factions of people who commit violence against people. And I'll just say, maybe I'll put this one. There's the types that will go out there wearing like a baseball helmet, or a football helmet, or a hard hat, and then they'll take a bat or tire iron, and they'll go beat on people that they don't agree with. And a lot of times they'll wear black masks. Anyway, but they'll go beat on people in cities and states that have very gun laws. So high probability nobody's carrying. I think that, and some of these groups have made statements, hey, we're going to go into the rural communities. Come on. Here's the problem, though. When people like that who are just, oh, I'm going to beat people senseless because they don't believe the way I believe, those are the types of people out there, they're calling somebody else fascist, which means they don't own a history book, apparently, or never read one. Because that's the very definition of fascism. But when they start encountering people who are saying, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm not going to let you just do that, we're going to run into a clash at some point where there's going to be mass amounts of violence. When the people who are very comfortable with violence and well trained to do finally say enough, that stuff's going to get put to a halt pretty quick, and it's not going to be pretty. And I think I'm probably saying the quiet part out loud for a lot of us, but I think it's something that a lot of us who think like I do think about anyway, whether we say it or not. We're all at that point where we're going, okay, I was just out there trying to go shopping in a mall with my family, and all these people came through beating on people. When that kind of stuff happens, and there's enough of us going, I'm going to protect mine, I'm going to protect those around me, it's going to get ugly because those people they're evil clowns. Hey, what idiot can't swing a baseball bat at somebody? But then it takes someone with skill and purpose to stand up in a mall and place a well-placed 15-yard shot to eliminate an evil clown.
I think we're, unfortunately, man, I hate saying this. I think we're a lot closer to that becoming a reality every single day. Just because one person doesn't agree with someone else, now it's hate speech. It's not hate speech. It's called a different opinion. And what happened to the days when we could each have different opinions and not, I'm going to go beat you with a tire iron.
Yeah.
Come at my family with a tire iron, I'm going to send you back in a casket. Listen, if you edit that out, so be it. But that's the way it's going to be, and it's going to be that way for a lot of us. We're not going to stand around and let you do that to our family and friends. Absolutely not. You can mail that idea back home. It's not going to ride anywhere else. It's unfortunate that I feel like that's coming up. I feel like also what's going to lead to a mass issue, and I don't want to define what kind of issue it might be, but this situation with the southern border is a much bigger problem than the left wants us to believe.
Yes.
It's an enormous problem. First off, they're flowing across running water. Name any other country in the world where that's allowed.
No.
Not one. You take, oh, this is the most freest country ever. We're not the freest country in the world by a lot of standards. But let's take Switzerland. That's a pretty lax country. I can't move there unless I had documentation. Unless I apply for citizenship. I can't do that. But it's cool. Here, guys, no humans illegal. Yeah, if you commit illegal act, you're already illegal. If you break into my home, you're illegal. Why is that not common sense? Ask someone on the left if it's okay to break in their house. No. Then why is it okay to break into the country? It's just my house is much bigger. Oh, why do you own the land? We'll call it a constitution and we'll cut to the chase on that one, okay?
But I think that is going to become a much, much bigger problem. And if I could fix anything right now, it's going to start there. I'm proud of our state in Florida for banning with Texas and all those states that are doing that. And some people, don't you think that's leading to a civil war? Only if the government wants it to. Maybe it isn't, but you know what? If the government did its job, Texas wouldn't have to.
I want to thank you for introducing yourself and introducing your podcast to everyone. DP2A today is Defend and Protect the Second Amendment. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and tune back in because our next interview is going to be with my brother.
That dude is a stud. He's a hero amongst heroes, man. As far as I'm concerned, he's one of my heroes. But listen, subscribe, yes. Let's have some fun, man. I think, yes, we talked about some serious stuff on there. We talked about some dark stuff, some serious stuff, but man, let's have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. And not everything is going to be military related.
Yeah. We got physicians coming up. We got a guy who's just fired up about trying to help us to get through some possible dark times coming up.
Yeah.
We do have another military couple coming up, our first couple interview. We're going to have multiple other couple interviews.
Yeah.
But so excited about that one because they're personal, great friends of ours. They're like my little brother and little sister.
So we got some good stuff coming up, good topics, things you'll be interested in. So tune back in. Don't forget to comment, share, subscribe. We need subscribers. We need you guys' help. Get this podcast to all your friends and please watch it all the way through. And we appreciate every one of you.
Yeah, and positive or negative, I'll take your feedback. I've got thick skin. I'm not worried about that. I just want to hear what you think. Be constructive with it, though. Let's work to improve things. Cool.
All right.
How we going?
Okay, ladies, bye.
We're out.
It did start.
That's why I had my. How's it going?
Hello, everyone. We are here with our first guest. This is Hornless, the unicorn. And why are you hornless? It's because of my dog. My dog did that. Okay. And I noticed
You're also tailless. That's interesting. Okay, how is this? You can't hear me very good because you don't have any ears either. So you're hornless, tailless, and earless. Have you gone to the VA about this? You're a veteran. You have. Okay. And my dog did all this to you. You went to the VA. What did they tell you? They had 10% disability. Outstanding. That's worth about $8.